Welcome back to the Female Dating Strategy, the meanest female only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Diana. And today we have an extra special guest, someone I've been following for a really long time. It's Fleeksie.
Hey. Oh my God.
I'm so excited to have you on today. I've been following you for at least about 4 years now. In the pre-talk, I told Fleeksie, I was like, I've been following you since you had blonde hair. So it's been that long. And yeah, I mean, I really love your content. It's just been so fun. I'm like really into makeup and stuff as well. So it's just like, I feel like it's strange to say I grew up with you because I think we're about the same age. But I mean, I feel like I've grown with you. You know what I mean? I feel like I've grown with you and like I've seen your journey and I just appreciate how vulnerable you are. And just, I feel like I'm rooting from you on the side because it's so nice to see someone who's so real. And you're on so many platforms and you've just maintained the sense of authenticity and just wonderful to your listeners and your audience and just giving such sound advice that I was like, when I saw that you'd posted a comment on our April Fool's prank, which I was very excited to make. That was the one who made that, by the way. I was like, oh my God, I saw Fleeksie and I was like, it's a sign. It's a sign. I need to reach out to her. Because when we got the gig, we were asked to like put together a list of people we wanted to get on the podcast. And you were one of the people on mine. So I'm so excited that we get to do this today.
Oh my God, thank you. I'm like silently having my hand over my chest right now. Like I'm so touched.
Well, I mean, I genuinely think it warrants it because I think that, there's very few TikTokers, I wouldn't categorize you as just that, but like very few content creators and very few people who are making the kind of content that you're making that's not just based on women settling and women putting up with the bullshit that men dole out to us. And so I think that at the time when you were coming up to it was just like a moment of reckoning. I think a lot of women who were, stuck in COVID were finally realizing that they were like in relationships with ain't shit men and they needed that kind of content. And I think, the algorithm is algorithming because, you get recommended people who you automatically align with. And I was always getting recommended your videos and I was like, well, definitely there's something here, and I've been following you for a while and I just really love your content. So that's there. And now my fangirling is, it's going to continue, but for now we have paused it.
Yeah, well, thank you. And to speak to your point of feeling like we grew up together, to me, it feels like, I don't want to say high school or like college, but it's like we spent the last 4 years and we're like watching everybody develop at the same time. We feel like a graduating class.
Exactly, right? Because we've come to these conclusions at the same time about men. And I think, one of the things I just want to get into today is, can you tell us about like how you found out about FDS and, what was your journey with the female dating strategy in general? Like, how did you find out about us?
Yeah, so my family is more of the Reddit using type of internet explorers, I guess you could say. My followers were the ones who actively used FDS. And I think some of you guys, not some of you, but specifically like people on FDS would post my content and reshare it there. So I was notified that I was being posted on that platform. Then in 2021, when I guess the vaccinations started flowing through everybody, we all started dating again. There was one guy that I called hemorrhoids on my, I want to say it's a Ninja Dusties episode. It was so funny. But his name was Hemorrhoids, and he said that he was looking for an FDS girl. And I had no idea what that meant at the time or like what that entailed or why him even being on Reddit would be a red flag. That's how I got acclimated to the conversations that were happening in that space. And I found my way to your podcast and I just watched every single episode down to like the transition moment when you guys joined on. And I was just very invested in the content and the teachings. And I would pass them on to my followers and I'd be like, you guys, that's from FDS. Like, you guys got to listen to them.
Yeah. And it's so wild, right? Because I remember like when I found that this subreddit, they used to get like brigaded a lot and they used to get like a lot of hate from the other Reddit groups. And like I was in Reddit groups that were like unrelated to dating content in general, like makeup or fashion or whatever. You know what I mean? Like things that were very benign. When I saw the content on the forum, I was like, I don't understand how any of this is considered extreme. If anything, it just seems like a good dose of common sense,
Yeah.
And it seemed like common sense at that time, especially that I needed because like the advice that I was getting while I was dating was just very contradictory and very unhelpful. And I was like, well, this sounds sound.
Yeah, the moderators at the time were doing a good job because I was like, who's attacking you? I don't see them.
Exactly. And so, you would only hear about it like if you were in another subreddit and they were like, oh, don't go there. But like, obviously, I'm a human being. I'm curious. I'm like, why should I not go there? So I would go and I'd be like, well, I don't understand. What's the problem? I don't understand,
Even calling it a subreddit just feels so wrong because it's infiltrated culture on like a mass scale. I'm like, sub? No, babe. It's like Dominion.
it's a movement, right? And
Yeah, it actually is. And that's why they hate to see it.
exactly. And the one thing I really appreciate now in TikTok is that, like, I remember 5 years ago, FDS seemed radical. And now I feel like there's like a lot more women who are posting similar content. And I'm like, wow, that's wild. And I do think that FDS had a large role to play with normalizing that kind of content, because I think that a lot of women, the common advice they got was like, communicate yourself out of corners, settle, let the man dictate terms, you don't want to die single and a cat lady. Like, it was very, very just dehumanizing advice and just very unhelpful advice. And so that was why I was very excited to have you today, because I feel like the advice that you give women is not rooted in this scarcity mindset, and is not rooted in like telling people to, just betray themselves. And I mean, I'm sure that must have taken you some time to develop as well, right? And would you say that like that happened over COVID, or how did your journey progress, like as absorbing more of that kind of material?
It's like the active deconstructioning that comes with decentering men. It's like learning to find that content that says like, oh yeah, I just tolerated my husband trashing up my house today. Oh, just another day with my husband. That like where that becomes rage bait to the internet instead of just being like, haha, me too.
How would you say that, like, just the messages that came out of FDS, right? Like the don't settle, don't let men dictate terms thing. Like, I'm sure that we all went through points in our lives where we weren't like that, right? And I'm sure even in your dating life, you were like, you betrayed yourself a lot. So I'm like, how did that growth happen for you? Like, what really changed for you? Was it like just a COVID thing? Like, how did that happen for you?
Oh, yeah. So for me, I don't know if you guys know this, like I'm 30 years old. I'm a millennial. I grew up through like the thick of, oh, you don't want to be like the other girls and you want to like sell yourself as low maintenance. And this person who is cool with your man following women and not saying anything about it because, oh, he's just going to make another account. So you might as well just be chill with the fact that he's public about it. I just grew up with so much of that platitude advice and I was so sick of it. And it just kind of blew my mind that I was like scared to say the silent part of what really actually needs to be said in that moment of like, no, it's actually better to not tolerate it, if not be alone. And I just saw through my relationships that like, whenever I would leave these dudes who were doing these things that normally my loving Gen X elders would have told me to just settle and tolerate and put up with if I want to quote unquote date men, doing that kind of led me to this place of like, no, it's better to be alone. It's the decentering men of it that comes with first you have the really high standards. And if they can't meet them, well, then you realize you're truly going to be better off by yourself. I grew up in an all-female household. And it was when a male presence was introduced to it that I kind of saw the dysfunction that gets added to the equation in that mix. And I was like, no, it's got to be everything or almost like nothing. There can be maybe some like chips on the side. There can be some like cracks in the veneers because obviously nobody's perfect. But I'm so aware of the dysfunction that a male presence can have in a female space that I'm like, I truly would rather opt to have nothing, if not something that's very substantial.
I definitely think I have that in common with you. Like, I mean, I don't think I always had that. I think that, before COVID, like, I mean, I had a very loving father, but like after my father passed away, I didn't really have proximity to.
My condolences.
Yeah, thank you. It's been a while. But I mean, since then, I don't think that like, I've really had male figures that I trust in my own inner circle like that. I mean, like there are some that I'm close to, but like distantly, you know what I mean? Like they still don't know everything. And I keep them at arm's length because I'm like, this is how much I'm willing to let you know, right?
I'm always so impressed when there's a good one. I'm like, what a man, what a man.
Yeah, I'm confused. I'm like, what happened to you? Like, were you created in a lab or something? You know what I mean? Like
written by 7 women.
Where did you come from? Did you come from like osmosis?
He's pink pilled.
He's pink pilled. Yeah, no, I think that I reached the stage during COVID, especially. I think my biggest fear before COVID was the idea of dying alone. And I think a lot of women have that, right? And then when COVID happened, I was stuck in this foreign country where I knew no one. I didn't have any relatives around. I had no friends around. I had just started a program. So I didn't know anyone. And so I was kind of confronted with my greatest fear. And I was like, oh, wow, actually, this isn't so bad. And I mean, that was the point when I started seeing your content as well, where I was like, okay, like, I'm actually better off than I thought that I would be. And maybe there's some value in actually taking time and being on my own and developing myself as a person, as an individual, as opposed to like seeking so much validation and setting too much stock by being with a man. Because even when I was dating, I didn't really feel like it was all that fulfilling, to be honest with you. I think it's very hard to find someone who's genuinely good quality. So you spend a lot of your time like playing in the muck.
Girl, getting headaches.
Right. I just wasn't, I was like, my body, like you have that visceral sort of like bodily reaction to it where you're like, I'm stressed.
That was the cue for me. It was the physical headaches. I think one of my friends had pointed it out in myself as well, because like I had been kind of like dating back to back to back. She was like, girl, if you were just alone for just even 6 months, it would change your life. And they were right. I was like, wait, why am I suddenly getting money and opportunity? And why am I suddenly doing good in school?
Yeah, it's because you start to focus, right? It's like, I think there's some truth to what our like elders say about like boys can be a distraction. It's so true. But they don't tell you when. They tell you that at like high school. And it's like actually where it's really relevant is in your 20s, because your 20s is when you're actually building your life. And I think that's when most people get really desperate and they're like, oh, no, 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 but I'm approaching 26. And what if I reach the time when my prefrontal cortex is fully developed and I don't have a man? And it's like, maybe find one after that, you know?
For me, I'm a blue dot in a red city. I live in Florida against my will at this point. I'm like, oh my God, I need to escape. I don't know how. Like once you're locked in, you're locked in. Like my generational wealth just happens to be here. And when you grow up here, you grow up with everybody like being married at 22, the norm. Being afraid to die alone, also the norm. People are on a rush to like live a life that they think they should have. And I kind of get it, because there's a privilege that you can have in this place. Truly, like the rest of the world's problems do not exist here. It's just blue sky and sun and like decent weather every now and then. Like a part of that comes the fear of not being alone, like achieving the ultimate, I guess, Disney dream. And it took a lot to deconstruct that.
Mm-hmm. How did you deconstruct that? Like, how did you wake up?
Girl, I was kind of always a freak in high school. I was already on the skirts of life. I just tried to make myself fit within them. And it was just so obvious it wasn't happening for me. I think I had gotten like rejected by society, like the moment that I graduated. And it was like, okay, clearly like what's working for everybody else is not going to be the thing that works for me. And I just had to come at peace with like the fact that my journey is going to look different. But because it looks different and I'm embracing it, that's going to make it less abrasive for me.
And I mean, you mentioned that you had a background in anthropology, right?
Yeah.
What are some insights from anthropology that you think are relevant to like the kind of content you make now? Like, is there any relevance to dating? Like, what is the tea on anthropology?
Oh my God. Understanding humans, understanding culture, keeping your finger on the pulse, knowing the way that you want the world to be is not the way that the world is, and knowing that there's a lot of people that are going to try to interject their narrative because they benefit from it. And I think the tea with dating is knowing, I guess, the science of like how your body reacts to these interactions and these societal moments, like feeling outcasted or feeling like you're not going to survive. You know, when how you go through that long period of being single and you find out, wait, I'm still here and I'm still breathing. Same thing with turning 30, like, oh my God, I didn't die. Like I am 30 and I'm walking. Just knowing that, like, I think the tea with anthropology is that the lived experience is not the experience that is told.
I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, I feel like as you approach 30, you're a lot more nervous about turning 30. And then when you turn 30, it's actually okay. Like, it's the lead up to 30 that's always like the most nerve wracking, because I think that a lot of people feel like when they hit 29, they're like, I should have been somewhere totally different by now. And I think it's so relatable to a lot of people. I mean, that's why there's like a whole Saturn return thing. It's like, yeah, that's the time of your life when it's going to suck, because society has this weird fixed notion of like, you need to have figured it all out by the time that you're 30. And like when you actually hit 30, you're like, oh, actually, this is just the beginning. Like, I'm just constantly going to keep reinventing myself. I mean, I came on to this podcast like way past 30, you know, and I was like, well, I mean, I'm doing new things all the time.
You have such a baby girl voice. Couldn't even tell.
Really? Oh my God. Yeah, no, I'm in my early 30s. So yeah.
Well, that's a slay. And I embrace it. Like I knew at 26 I was going to have to. There's just so much compounded pressure. Like there's all these things that you're supposed to have checked off by 30 that make you like doom spiral. And I'm like, oh my God, just detaching yourself from that is such a process.
Mm-hmm. I think there's something freeing about not achieving it by the time you're 30 as well, in a strange way, because you're like, oh, okay, the world didn't collapse because I didn't do that. I think some people really think like, oh, I wish my life would just end at 30. And I'm like, oh my God, thank God it didn't. Thank God I can go on and on and on and just like keep slaying, you know?
Absolutely. And not even to be like a chapel type to be like, oh, well, I saw my friends do it and they're miserable. But like, I did look to the left and I looked to the right and I was like, I'm the only one smiling.
Yep. Because you didn't actively like a man dim your shine. And I think that a lot of people don't know how not to do that. Like, I think a lot of people, like, they do reach that stage where they get desperate the older they get. And I think that, you know, we just did an episode about like how to not be desperate, you know, and it's easier said than done. But I think it comes down to like not letting other people dictate what makes you happy. It's just very simple, you know?
Is this the digmatization one? Because I love the title.
Yeah, it's the digmat.
I
Yeah.
like me trying to get
Are
the
you
syllables out.
Yeah, I mean, and like that was just something that, me and Rose were talking about because we were like, yeah, I mean, you reach these milestones in your life and you start feeling very paranoid. You start feeling very like, oh my God, I should have gotten. Also, it depends on culture, right? Like, I mean, I don't come from a red state, but I come from a country that's super conventional and conservative. And of course, people are very concerned when you're a woman over 30, you're not married, and you're slaying as I slay. Because I mean, I make sure that like their wives know I have a good time. And like, those men are not happy with me because if they knew just how much fun I'm having on my own, they would never let their wives hang out with me because I'm having a lot of fun. I'm doing what I want. I'm traveling the world. I have an interesting, exciting career. So like I'm not, paying attention to that at all. I'm like, if it organically happens, it does. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. And either way, I feel like I have a responsibility to be happy in my own life, regardless of whether a partner's there or not. I think a lot of people think that there's this need to have some kind of external person validate you. But like the second you realize, actually, no, I can choose to be happy now as opposed to waiting for someone to make me happy. I think there's some real power in that.
Yeah, taking away the power from anybody else to say that you have the ability to do anything, whether it's grow, be happy, or just live a well-lived life. Also, like to speak to, your upbringings, I had like, I want to say 2 managers for 2 years that were from India. And I spent a lot of time with them outside of work. So I am familiar with like what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So I'm sure that you're clued in. I mean, it's especially, I mean, it's a culture that really values marriage, right? And like, it's very unusual for most women to be unmarried after 30. So it's like, that's pretty much the only line of questioning I ever get. I mean, I think they're curious more than concerned, but it's at the end of the day, it's not their business. But I mean, I'm kind of similar to you in the sense that out of high school, I was like, yeah, I don't fit in and I'm definitely a non-starter. And I'm like, I'm an outcast, I would say in some ways in that like,
I relate.
yeah, my mindset was different. Like what I wanted from life was different. I was very ambitious and I had these very high goals. And I was like, well, the life I want is so drastically different from the lives I see of the women around me that I'm just going to have to do it myself.
What's interesting is that when you finally do get to that place of peace, suddenly you realize that everybody else has more of an issue with it than you do. Suddenly everybody's like male centered around you. And you're like, why do you give so much of a damn about my status? Like they're heated that you don't have a man in your house or that you live alone.
Mm-hmm, right. And I really want to talk about like our other subject today as well, because I think it's so connected to this about like toxic jobs and the connection between toxic jobs and toxic men. Because I think that like overwhelmingly, when I've stayed with toxic men and toxic jobs, it's always been because of external pressure. Because anytime I try to seek help from other people and be like, hey, is this normal? Or is this something I want for myself? People be like, yeah, that's totally normal. You're supposed to be miserable. And that's the thing, right? People present marriage the same way. It's like, oh, you're not supposed to enjoy it. It's supposed to be hard. And I'm like, if it's so hard and so unpleasant, like, why would anyone do it?
This is a great segue.
Thank you.
Yay. But yeah, that's so true. I also think too, the similarities that we're going to like end up unpacking, just the way that like you can start off a toxic job or toxic relationship with so much light in your eyes. Like the single jobless version of you is like in shape and tan and you got that back straight. And then by the end of your toxic job, you're like, why do I have a knot in between my shoulders 24/7? You're like, you're developing a humpback.
Oh my God. And the stress catches up with you, right? Because I think that once you have a normalized sense of stress and that like deregulated nervous system, you just don't realize that like there's another way to live. I dealt with like back pain for like 4 years straight. And then once I got myself sorted out, I was like, why did I ever like live through that pain? And I think some people think there's like some virtue in struggling. And I've reached a stage where I'm like, no, you just struggle. There's no virtue. Nobody's going to give you an award for struggling. Sometimes struggling is necessary for your own growth, but I think sometimes you just struggle for the heck of it. And it's like, that's pointless.
It's only going to be the other strugglers who are clapping for you because you're right where they are. and it's like, no, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I also think it keeps you in a community with people who don't necessarily want the best for you, because some people are happy to see you struggle. And then the second your life takes off and you ascend, you get to that higher version of yourself or whatever, those same people are like, not down with it.
Like I have like a personal like struggle story, but I knew towards the end of my days with one of my companies was when they asked me to share a hotel room with multiple employees. And I put my foot down. I was like, no, that makes me uncomfortable. Like viscerally, I'm going to have to say no to that. And we went back and forth in circles for a few minutes. And they were like, well, we had to do that in the military. And I was like, well, my mom did the military thing, so I don't have to. Like, I don't tried to be sassy, but they were just like jaw agaped because they were like, what do you mean we're all suffering? Like your parents suffer too. Like, well, not me.
Yeah, and I mean, sometimes I think women also like we're discouraged from having the audacity. Like I joined a company and like pretty much as I was joining them, this was like later last year. I was only with this company for a short time because they started pulling shenanigans, and I was like, "Yeah, no, no, thank you. I'm
Oh no,
exiting."
honey.
You know. But I remember like when I joined them, I was like, "Yeah, I'm going to be traveling for like a month, and so I'm going to be working remotely from there." And they're like, other people in the company were like, "Oh, we would have never told them that, and like, taken that like that much time off, Because I mean, it wasn't even like I was taking time off. I was still working. I was just working from another country. But they were like, no, 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 we wouldn't tell them, and we'd be afraid that they wouldn't allow us to do it. And I was like, well, what do they care as long as the job is done, right? Why do they care if I did it from, I don't know, South Africa or whatever? But it's like I asked that, and like it was no problem with them. But like if I let everyone get into my head, I wouldn't even ask that, even though it's like minor, right? You would think. But people like go on such power trips. And I think that men and jobs are very similar this way. Like once you let them know that they have this kind of power over you, that's how they take advantage of you.
Yeah, no, that sounds about right. Also, the way how a toxic man is just looking for somebody who is going to stay in line and not question them and who won't challenge them. I think a part of like the not being challenged and the authority of the fear of like, I guess it's like it's Machiavellian to want other people to have that reaction to you in an interaction that can feel kind of like intimate or everyday.
That's the thing, right? They actively choose people that seem vulnerable.
Yeah. And they know what it looks like when somebody's not going to speak up, and they know when somebody's not going to ask for a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, I think when you're younger, I mean, I definitely feel like in my early career, I was much more uncomfortable asking. And so I got exploited a lot. It's like taken a lot for me to stand my ground and stand on business and be like, no, I mean, I work freelance. So for me, I'm with new clients all the time. And I have to, set the intention and set the energy from the start. And that's something that's very FDS as well when it comes to men. It's like you can't get him to perform and be a better boyfriend after you've already shown him you accept the bare minimum. You kind of have to come with that energy from the start.
Oh, that's law.
And that's the same with jobs, I would say too. Like if you tell them that like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm available, you can call me at 3 a.m., you'll call me and I'll be there. Just call my name. No, you can't do that with them, You can't do that. In your experience, like what was your, I mean, because you are also, I think, a master of the multiple side hustles and like you've reinvented yourself. And again, like the last 4 years, I've seen so many transitions for you. So like, what do you think you've learned in that time since? Not to condense everything in your life, but you know what I mean? Just like,
yeah, well, I would say like some pre-context about me. I was a stay-at-home daughter for the first like 4 years of my social media life. And then I kind of got picked up like a Peloton instructor for my personality to go work in a professional setting. And then they were willing to develop me, but only because I was willing to be paid pesos. Until eventually I did actually stand up and advocate for myself. And that, when you're in an environment that's toxic, the person who's in charge, like they understand it. The people around you don't. So I was very kind of like hush hush with the fact that I did advocate for myself so heavily. But for me, what I learned was that like, well, I guess this is kind of like random side job advice, but like if they already decided that they like you and that you have something of value, advocate for yourself. Like it doesn't matter if they're going to say no, at least you did it already because like you're letting them know what you expect or what you want or what you will leave them for. And for me, that was like, I don't want to come in at 9 o'clock in the morning. I want to come in at 10. And oh my God, Becky, because the type of environment that sets. I think like when you're in a toxic environment or when you meet toxic people in a groupthink dynamic, they're like things humbling you. And one of the acts of humbling me was trying to put me on that 9 a.m. time. So I just think like advocating for yourself early on in the beginning, like get that out the way. Even if you don't have experience, all you need to just be is like liked and considered for the job because it took them a really long time to find you. They're going to have a hard time finding somebody else. Other things that I've learned in these last 4 years that I think would, I guess, kind of be like a good piece of advice for everybody else around you, or I guess the audience today. If you are someone who has a lot of light and you have a lot of energy and you are probably like, I guess, secluded, like you do a lot of your best work in your own space, if you meet other people who might not be of that same background, it's like the equivalent of walking out into a prison yard. Like, girl, they're going to shake you down and they're going to try to figure out why you're the happiest prisoner with like the most commissary. And it's not going to be a good, safe environment for you. I guess like it's my Disney mindset where like I want to believe that everybody is good and full of joy and everybody wants to see the good in others. Like, no, babe, if you enter a toxic environment, what it will do is bring you to their level, much like a toxic man.
And it's a crabs in a bucket thing, because you would think that people would be happy that like another woman is being taken care of and advocated for, but they're not. Because the thing is, I think people project a lot of their insecurities on you. And I mean, that's part of the reason why sometimes, with certain offices I've experienced where like I've been able to advocate for myself and ask for more. And they have a clause in my contract where I can't disclose. I mean, of course, this is like totally illegal in the States, but unfortunately, it's not illegal in other parts of the world where they disclose like I can't tell anybody else my salary because I'm getting paid significantly higher.
Oh, this over here would be at will.
Right. But yeah, I mean, they still come back at you and punish you for like not performing. So like if you were like the person who actually were able to advocate for yourself, but then you're not like over and above every single person justifying every last dollar, they're like, oh, well, it's not worth it to pay you that much. And it's like, well, no, you agreed to this because I had a skill that wasn't available in somebody else. Like I do the same job for half the time, for example, or I do the job more efficiently.
You're bringing quality and expertise.
Yeah. And I mean, not everybody values quality, and men don't value quality necessarily either. Otherwise, they'd be making better choices themselves, but they aren't.
I was just listening to a podcast. I don't know if you guys want to do like a random free shout out or if you guys want to advocate for this one. You could block out the name, but it's called The Daily Zeitgeist. And they were talking about how Republicans love AI slop. They love that low quality, fast churning, like no substance AI slop that has no human soul. Because like for the most part, it can kind of put something out that looks refined, but like it misses the human element of what's actually going on in the day to day. So it loses so much of that like ability to reach through the screen and grab people. But yeah.
I mean, I can tell because I mean, I worked for a company that was like exclusively just AI slop, and it's their job just to sell like bullshit to people. And so they didn't give a shit because it was like quantity over quality. You know what I mean? And so they'd be selling like items that were marked like sustainability oriented or whatever. And it's like, well, you're using ChatGPT to sell that. So doesn't that defeat the purpose of selling something that's sustainable? But I don't know. I digress.
Yeah, wait, I was like, wait, I have to ask, did anything in your like millennial upbringing prepare you for AI? Because it was never even whispered about in my circles.
No. So like, I mean, I have a purely writing background, right? Like I've worked in like almost every department of writing you can think of, from like marketing to editorial to journalism to film to, I don't know, just every single thing you can think of, I've written. Okay, I've written websites, I've written books, I've written like every single, if it had words, I did it.
I'm convinced that writing is the core of all of those talents.
I mean, it's such an important skill and it's so undervalued.
You need it for every single one of those.
It was always undervalued. That's the thing. But it's like a backbone of everything, right? And so now you have these people who are convinced that they're artists because they can create slop from AI and they can create Ghibli from AI. And so they think, oh yeah, I'm Miyazaki now because I can make anime from typing a couple words into ChatGPT. And
unfortunately, all of those things are only good if you're already good and can discern bad.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, they can't, right? And it's not like the Republicans make great tastemakers when it comes to the arts. And so that's the thing. If you're a creative spirit at all, a 9 to 5 is going to suck you dry anyway, because their priorities are so different. It's people like, on an oar on a ship. And like, they don't really care about, speeding up the journey or making sure the journey is more pleasant. They're making sure that every single person has their rig and oar and they're sitting and doing the same shit every single day. And so, I mean, I kind of got sucked into that where I was like, okay, maybe I should be doing this to be more like my peers. And that's the thing. Anytime you start doing things to be more like your peers is when you try to betray yourself, because if you're a creative spirit in general, I don't think that you can thrive that way. And this comes down to dating as well. Like anytime I felt like I was trying to conform to what other people's expectations were of what I should be doing, I was so miserable. And I realized some people are just okay with a certain degree of misery. Like that's why they can do it. Like they're okay with trading their soul for an extra zero on their paycheck. And I was like, I tried it. That's the funny part. It's not even like I didn't try it. I did, and it just didn't work for me. I just couldn't do it.
I was convinced that doing the 9 to 5 was my dream until I actually got in there. And then I realized, wait, if you have to buy a ChatGPT subscription to do your job, you in danger, girl, because they're paying people $20 an edit for like one video. And then you're working for what, $28 and they want 5 videos in that 1 hour. Like you might as well be freelance.
Yeah. And you stand to make more, right? You stand to make so much more. Like beyond like the actual financial benefit to you, it's like I do what I want that's a reflection of my skill set now, right? I work independently and I pick and choose my clients. I don't necessarily have to work with people that I don't like. Like I try to gauge whether I think I'm going to enjoy working with them or not. And I have a a distinct sort of reputation for what I can do. So now it's like I've been able to call the shots in a way that I wasn't able to call the shots for the last 10 years of my life. I think I was also lucky in that I did find a few mentors who were able to mentor me to pick better positions. And they were all women. I worked in an all female office once, and that was awesome. And so they were able to help me.
I've also worked in all female spaces for years. I choose it. I seek it out.
Yeah, of course, there can be drama with that as well. And I don't know, in my case, every single time there was drama, it's because they added a man that didn't need to be there.
No way.
It was coincidental, it's just something about their energies just does not work. But I made certain friendships and, alliances with people there who are able to help me get and secure better work. And so again, I used to work for firms where my clients would hate the firm and then I'd leave, but they liked working with me so much that they came to me when I became independent. And I think that your work does speak to you, and when you're a creative person at all, if you have that kind of skill set, and I think you have that very creative skill set. So I don't even think you should worry that much now that you're not working, because I feel like you do have that talent to get back into it again. That's the thing. You have to come from a position of I do have something of value to people. And it's the right job would see that and see that value. And the right man will see that value too. It works both ways.
I think sometimes the people in your life, there's this thing where they know that you need stability. So it's oh, thank God that you have a job. But there's this other half of it when they know that baby, the job is it's using you to the fullest degree. Because I know for me, when I put out that announcement that my days were done, everybody was okay, well, we love you, but it was giving charity work anyways. It was time.
Yeah. I think you spoke about how when you were in certain bad relationships, you had this physical reaction to it. You were sick, you had a headache and stuff. When I was at my last really shit job, every single day I would have this weird bodily reaction. I felt I was having a heart attack every day. I'm not even being dramatic. My blood pressure or whatever was always rising. And I was always feeling really, really untethered over there. And it was because I think fundamentally the job just didn't resonate with my soul. I'm a person who really puts my heart into things. And so when I was working at a job that was undervaluing my writing skill, but also just forcing me to use ChatGPT nonstop, I was I just feel like a cog in a machine and not even a particularly valuable cog. You know what I mean? I'm so replaceable to them. And it's spitting in my face and devaluing my talent, while at the same time I don't have the pride to step away because I need the paycheck. And I was I need to find a way out. And so I didn't stay idle at just being this is the only job I'm going to do. I actively try to find ways to split away from that and actively try to find ways out of it. And so that was what really saved me, was just the fact that I was I'm not going to let this job defeat me.
See, I'm glad that you still had the energy to do that, because towards the end of my days, it was so bad. I was disoriented by the time I went to go look at my resume. I think my sister, she has a past of being a recruiter. When I told her that I was sending out the 4-page resume, she was what is you doing? Don't do that. Even my followers were oh my God, you better make that thing 1 page tonight. But I guess with your toxic job, how did you know that they were toxic? Was there red flags in the beginning?
No, there weren't red flags at the beginning. They were very transparent. And actually the person who had run the job was someone I had worked with in another older job. That was part of the reason I was willing to work at that job, because I was well, someone I know works there and it's maybe it's fine. But the nature of the job within the first week, I knew just wasn't my speed, just because it just wasn't a fit. I was kind of overqualified for that job. Let me just start with that. But also it was a very mundane, everyday, come do the same thing sort of job. And I remember calling my friend the first week I got there. And again, I didn't approach the job with any enthusiasm. It was I was collecting a check. I went into that job being I need the money. I just need the check. I don't really care about this job. And it's a job I can do with my eyes closed. So maybe that's what I need to do right now. Because I wasn't getting a lot of opportunities in the field that I wanted to work in. And so I was oh, this just, I need money. Again, desperation will put you in a bad path, because at that point I was I just need the money. And I remember calling my friend and being I wonder if I'll make it 2 months at this job. And I lasted 6, which is not bad, but
that's impressive.
which is not bad. But at that time I was I'd be surprised if I managed 2 months, and 2 months was the probation as well. So it was if either one of us wanted to call it quits, we could. But I stuck around because I was well, I need to make the money. And the reason I knew they were a really bad job for me was because they were really punishing about very small mistakes. They were we'll dock your pay if you make a human error, even though we're using ChatGPT and we have to turn out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the same damn thing, advertising essentially, right? And so if you're working on 100 different things a day, chances are something's going to fall through the cracks. And I was I don't want to work at a place that punishes you for being human.
They are the error. What do you mean?
Yeah. And they were very passive aggressive as well. And that's the thing you have to watch out as well. For example, if you made a mistake, they'd call you out on a WhatsApp chat and be why are you making these, just yelling at you in front of a whole group of people. And I was yeah, no, I'm just not down with that. I'm past the point where I think
Dude, that's like my number one work ethic is like, you do not call people out publicly. Like you have to pull them to the side and have a private conversation.
You would think this is management 101, but unfortunately, they were not particularly good managers. And so I was like, well, I don't trust your leadership, right? Because if I don't know that the management has my back, like I remember when I called them out on this, like in my exit interview, I was like, yeah, I didn't really appreciate when you guys did that. They were like, well, we would never have done it to you in front of like our head office. And I was like, that's not the point. The point is you shouldn't be doing it at all. You know?
Yeah, like what that got to do.
And they did the whole family thing too. They were like, well, you're like our babies. And I was like, I'm a grown woman and you're also a grown woman. Okay, I'm nobody's baby. And I'm pretty sure I'm older than you. So
like you could never give birth to this.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm older than you. Who the fuck are you calling baby?
When they forget that you're an adult.
Yeah. And I was like, look, I'm calling you out for being very unprofessional. And your response to that is to continue being very unprofessional.
Dude, it's the unprofessionalism for me, which is like the breaking of the context of the relationship for why you even got into it in the first place.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, that's the thing. You will go through phases in your life where you can't turn that job down because, you know, the economy is bad, you need the money, etc. And like, sometimes you just have to do that job. And it's unfortunate, but I had to do that job at that time. But like, as you said, like the longer you do it, the more your energy kind of fails. I think the key is to monkey wrench while you start out and like look for the job while you're at the beginning of the new job instead of looking for the job when you're like at the tail end burnt out. Because that's what I was doing. I was like, well, I'm doing this. And now that I've gotten the one major stress out of my life, which is like the cash flow, like I wanted an income, I can now focus on finding other more interesting things that are so that I can set myself up for like months in future. And so that's what happened. Like the day that I quit the job was the day I was offered another one.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah, which had never happened to me before, but it kind of like told me I was in the right direction.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I mean, I didn't take that job, by the way, because that job was another test from the universe. It was like a really high, what do you call it, title position, but like with very little pay. And I was like, I'm not doing that because I know the universe has something even better for me. And so I've been freelance ever since. But like since then, it's just been amazing because I didn't settle.
Oh, I was going to say, I was joking with my followers the other day that like, oh, I got an interview with this company. It's apparently like toxic. How soon can you start? Immediately.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? You have to investigate your individual position at that time because sometimes you can't avoid it. Like I'm not in a position right now to be like, ignore the economy, especially if it's impacting you, if you have bills to pay, if you have a house that you rent. Like these are real struggles and real indicators. Like you have to do what's necessary sometimes. And at that time, that was my position, you know? But I knew even back then that I was like, this needs to be a temporary position because I know I can't give myself to this job the way I want to.
Yeah. To the point of like reality, right? Some people have to be with their jobs because they have health insurance needs, or maybe there's a claim or something. I don't know. There's reasons why people have to be at jobs, whether it's debt, whether it's just the need for stability and having structure in their life. I understand the core function of it because there are just some things that you just can't achieve on your own without that. So like my heart does go out to anybody who has to be in that position. I think we live in a gig side hustle economy. Depending on where you are, I know if you're in a bigger city, it's going to be easier. Like I know people say like if they were in LA or New York, they wouldn't have the problem of not being able to find work because they would eventually be able to find something. But my advice would be to everybody who's, I guess, listening to this, who's kind of like, I'm either not sure what to do or like what that looks like for me. You can fail at something that you hate. So if it comes down to like absolutely needing something, I think I would be so aggressive about trying to find the outside opportunities of what is available around you. And I don't just mean like door dashing or whatever. Like I know some people like survive off dog walking or like cat sitting. There's also like ways to, I guess, work from home online remotely. It's possible to successfully escape, but you do have to treat that as the job itself. Like that becomes the new role. And I think people getting acclimated to that space, I think there's so much gatekeeping because people are like, they don't want competition. So they don't put that information out for free. But like, if nobody got you, sorry to bring it back to ChatGPT, but ChatGPT got you.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, these are some things that I've learned also just from like when I was unemployed, I was like, well, I need to fill my time with something. So I was taking these like Google classes, like the ones that are like super cheap and you can like take them for like a month or 2 or 3 and just learn a new skill. So like, you know, you can do digital marketing or whatever. And I think I did project management. And I was taking like these project management classes and meeting people who had like wildly different careers from what I had. And like, I remember I spoke to someone I knew really well who was a project manager. And he was like, you know what you need to do is stop going on LinkedIn. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, the 1,000 applications going to LinkedIn thing doesn't work unless you catch them in the first hour, because they already have so many applications and like so many spam applications too, by the point that you actually get to them, that there's no point in actually applying there anymore because they're not looking at it. Your best bet instead is to go to the company website and see the people who are like in charge, right? And like go to like, and he's like, you always want to go to the person who's like higher than the HR, someone who has actual power to go to the HR and be like, listen, I want you to hire this person, and like network with them instead. So like, go find them on LinkedIn and like connect with them immediately. Like the cold call of our parents' day of like go into the office and handshake for a job is very different now. Now it's like you do that through LinkedIn, you do that through their email, you find out what the email is of that company, and then you reach out to them directly and make the pitch yourself. Because if you can bypass the HR, and the HR is like, let's be honest, these days, like the HR is like the worst place to actually find a job because they're not screening. They have this like ATS thing that's screening for them. And like, you'd be lucky if your application was checked out by a human. And like, when I asked this guy, I was like, how did you get some of these like jobs that you got? Because he worked for like a massive skincare company and all these like other roles that I was like, he's not even a guy who knows anything about skincare. And he had like a massive role in a skincare company. And I was like, how the fuck did you do that? And he was like, well, I reached out to the person who was the financial manager of that company. And like, I knew him from another job. And I was like, are you looking for someone there? So you have to network like horizontally, not vertically. And like a lot of people try to do that, right? They're like, maybe if I'm like around these C-suite executives, they might do it. They'd only do that if they're your friend. I think you're more likely to first look at your own circle and see who can land you something there. But if you don't find it, like say that you don't have a circle, you're isolated, you don't have that. The next best thing is to actually look up companies and look up who's in charge of the organizational structure and then go directly to them via LinkedIn or email. And that's a much more effective strategy.
Oh, girl, you're dropping gems today. You're dropping things people search on TikTok for. They're like, I got the secret hack. She just dropped the secret hack, you guys.
I mean, that's the thing, right? You want to bypass, like, think about it logically. Why would you go to LinkedIn and apply to someone who has 4,000, 5,000 applications? Maybe 3,000 of them come from like another country, which is very possible, right? They get applications from people all over the world and they're just like dead. They're so like burnt out because they get so much crap.
It's the literal lottery.
Yeah, it's just so much crap they have to like weed through. Even if you're a perfectly good candidate, you're going to get weeded through the bubble. And like, since I've adopted this method that he told me about, I was like, I haven't had to do an interview with any company for a while. Not that I'm looking for corporate roles, but like, because I was freelancing, I was like, okay, first of all, it's very good to have internal goals, right? To be like, this is what I want to achieve. Like when I quit that job, I didn't want to let them defeat me. And I was like, I'm going to make more than I would have been making at that job to justify to myself and to justify to my family. Because my family's like, why the fuck would you do that? Why would you leave this perfectly stable organization?
Oh,
and like,
no.
again, like they're, very typical South Asian family. That's what they expect. They expect you to be stable because everybody around them is stable. Everybody around them is like married with kids. So it's like, why are you doing this? And I was like, look, I'm going to prove to you why it was worth my time, because whatever they said I could make at this company in a year, I'm going to double that.
Dude, I feel bad that your family was making a bad situation worse. They needed to be your cheerleaders in that moment.
No, that is not what happens. I mean, like, again, like, that's the thing. I think with the boomer and Gen X generation in general, I think that they have this mindset of like, you have to just like struggle through it because that's what we did. You can't complain about it because that's what work is and that's what life is. And life is about struggle and life is about sacrifice and life is about being miserable, sleeping next to your husband and crying yourself to bed every night. And I'm like, that is not my life. And that's not going to be my life,
Yeah. I was grateful enough to where like my friends and my family, their reaction was like, oh, that happened? Thank God, finally. They're like, we were waiting for you. And I was like, oh, well, they did it to me. But, I need that unemployment.
No, I mean, that's where you are, right? That's where you need to be right now, right? That's where you're on your journey right now. Like I was very fortunate that I did have, very supportive friends. I was like, no, I need to justify this to myself that this was, I knew it was a good decision, but I also knew and had faith that I could actually do that.
That's all the justification you need.
Yeah. I also know for a fact that I can outdo that. You know what I mean? Like, I know it won't take me much to outdo it. I'm like, because the thing is, the second I set myself to a goal, I have something to work towards. And I think that that's what people need to do. Like, you need to fill up your time with things that are possible for you. Of course, this is very difficult to do when you have no money, but this is where you have to learn to upskill and like network. That's the thing. Like people don't want to say it because we want to still pretend we live in a meritocracy, but that's not how it is anymore.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, wait, when do we get back to the man part of it? But if you do sense those red flags and it's very obvious to you that like, you can tell in the beginning, like, this is not an environment that's interested in your growth. They're interested in using you as a tool. This is an environment where they reward roboticness and people being silent and they want you to get in line with them. They don't want to work with you. Yeah, just start saving your money. Don't buy that Lululemon. If anything, sell the existing Lululemon in your closet because you're going to need it and start prepping like it's doomsday. Do not get into the habit of overspending to compensate for the bad way that your job makes you feel, because it's never going to be enough. You'll go into like 5 different credit cards of debt between the Starbucks and the shopping and the vacations and the nights out before you ever get to a place of feeling even mildly compensated by the stress that job put you through, or that toxic relationship, because both have that effect.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing. You also have to acknowledge that like things are so different now. It's not a meritocracy. Like men don't reward you for being a good woman. There's a reason why that guy came up to you and said, like, I'm looking for an FDS woman. Like, a lot of them don't admit to it. A lot of them don't admit to it, but that's the truth. They're looking for someone who's not going to let them push them around. Men claim they want a submissive woman, and then yet they leave the pick-me's alone. It's like, if you truly wanted that, there's so many pick-me's available. There's so many male-centered women available. Why aren't you picking one? They're always hunting.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, like, looking back at it, I was like, is this a form of Puritanism? Does he think that you guys got it on lock and that no one has access to it? Like, yes and no.
I honestly think in all likelihood, he probably just misunderstood it.
He was lurking in there.
He was like uncertain. Who knows? You know, who knows what goes on in their little teeny brains.
Yeah, I can't interpret it from his eyes. I don't belong there.
How do we advise people to like identify to avoid these situations?
Well, if you are in a situation with a toxic job, just know that it's one of those situations where like the more you're being complimented and the more you're being praised, the more you're probably not someone who is of that, I guess, worth of the compliments. It's kind of like they're praising you because you lack experience. They're praising you because you are overly accommodating and you are compensating for, I guess, like their emotional output. Like they might be always dysregulating everybody around them. You're willing to regulate the room with your energy. I would also say that, like, look around at the room. Does everybody look spent? Is everybody in pajamas? Like, how is everybody else showing up? For me, I was in a social media position and it was like no one wanted to be on camera because nobody wanted to be long-term associated with, one, the job, and two, how the job made them feel. And I think, like, for me, that was kind of like my first cue that, like, everybody's hiding from the cameras. But if you're not in that type of position, just look around at how long everybody else has been in the room. And there's like people who go online and they say that, like, they ask around, how long have you been here? And everybody's been around for like, what, 6 months? They're like, that's a bad sign.
High attrition. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, that's a new word for me. But I think another thing too, back to like the compliments that you probably don't deserve, which I know they're nice to hear, but the love bombing, being saturated with warmth initially, that's like, it's not bad to be saturated with love. But in this case, it's the fact that it operates in cycles of discard. Look around the room when you are being saturated with love, because is there a scapegoat? Is there somebody that they're always blaming or someone that they don't think works fast enough? That's usually the person that they're gas pedaling for so much stuff that, like, they can't even get it done. And one of the reasons why they're gas pedaling them is because they want them to get the fuck out as fast as possible. And they want them to do it in the fastest time so that they don't have to pay them as much.
And that's why they keep selecting people who are younger, who they can replace you with. Anytime they try to triangulate you with somebody else in the office and be like, well, this person expects less and, you know, whatever, that's when you know that this office is not a place to work for, right? They're going to value you individually and they're not going to try to triangulate you with somebody else and be like, look at this young, sexy person and how well they do their job and how good they suck my dick. I mean, I'm tying this to two things, but you know what I mean? It's like they will always try to bring somebody who's doing more for them. And it's like, well, if that's the case, maybe you should stick with them. Learning how to walk away. I remember my father, one of his best pieces of advice is like in any business negotiation, the biggest tool you have is the ability to walk away. Being able to walk away is not just an art, it's a refined skill. Knowing that you can walk away is the biggest, like, powerful tool you have in your arsenal.
Oh my God, that's great dad advice. I'm like, I don't think I've heard that from my mother yet.
Learn to walk away from bullshit. And I think, you know, with that, we're actually at the end of our episode. Thank you so much for being here. And, you know, we're so lovely. We're so grateful to have you here. Like, I'm just so happy that we got to have you because it's just, I hope that things go really well. And I know because you're so talented that you'll be fine. Like, you'll be all right.
Oh my God, Queen. I appreciate you.
And yeah, I mean, as always, you know, everybody else continue to send us things. We're so excited to have everything going up in motion. We have like a lot of wonderful interviews lined up this year and our socials are back and everything is back. And this 2025 is the year of growth and new beginnings.
Yeah, everybody, thank you for having me. I guess, can I do a plug?
Of course. Yeah. Plug anything you want. Go ahead.
But yeah, if you guys want more of me, I am Fleeksie. I'm Fleeksie on literally everything. And I do have my own podcast. And also I spend so much time listening to the FDS podcast. So you will find some sprinkled in and sourced bits from this podcast in mine.
And her podcast is called Fleekazoid.
Oh my God, thank you. Yeah, the most important part. Make sure to go follow me everywhere, but especially on Fleeksoid.
And with that, as always, hope everybody has a great week. And as always, die mad, scrotes.
I love it. Bye, guys.
Bye.